This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good Friday morning. Amy Jacobson here. Bruce Wolf.
Hi.
In for Dan Proft. I saw you outside the station early this morning and said, come on in and let's do some radio, huh?
Because I just hang around
You do.
all the
You just
time.
wait. You just circle the
I'm
building.
a vagrant.
Waiting.
Living in my refrigerator box.
Down by the river.
Sure. You know, they made those illegal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is more-
Refrigerators can't come in boxes anymore. Did you know that park benches have armrests on them, not for your convenience, but so that vagrants can't sleep on them? So many things are done.
They have a similar situation at the airport, where they have railings in between seats so that people don't turn them into beds.
Right. So many things are done to prevent bad behavior, not to help people, which is why now we're thinking about, I read this Kevin Williamson in National Review this morning, why we're thinking we got to rethink large venues and maybe, unfortunately not have them in metropolitan areas anymore, like, the Las Vegas Festival, like Lollapalooza, now that we found out what happened at the Blackstone, because these criminals can go into high-rises and shoot. It's a shame, but sometimes you have to adapt.
Well, this morning we're learning more about the gunman, but not his motive. We're still waiting. There's a note left, but we don't know exactly what's on the note, but it was not a suicide note. It was plans for an escape route. But we're hearing from different, reports. So hopefully, and also this morning, they finally identified all 58 victims. So let's get the latest on what's happening in Las Vegas and President Trump's mysterious message while dining with top officials. Did you hear this? Listen to this.
You guys know what this represents? Well, I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Well, that could be bombast from Trump because he does that kind of stuff. He saber rattles. What I'm more interested in is he said the other day that, we're going to find out some stuff about the shooter. And it sounded like he had inside information. And you know how he doesn't like to keep...
does because he's the president.
Right. And he likes to let everybody know that he's in on the secret that you're not in.
This reality TV show that we're living in, joining us now on our Turnkey.Pro answer line, our good friend, Ed Henry, chief correspondent over there at Fox News. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good morning, Amy. Good to talk to you, Bruce. Man, that guy Dan gets so much vacation time, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well,
unbelievable. You should see all the vacation time I have now, Ed.
Yeah.
He's permanently on vacation. So, Ed, what did President mean by that mysterious message last night?
Nobody knows. I mean, it's pretty remarkable to say this is the calm before the storm when you're standing there with military leaders and their spouses. I seem to remember something called Operation Desert Storm, right? The word storm obviously has a connotation of war, not just figuratively, but, as I say, I'm not joking. Operation Desert Storm, the calm before the storm. What is he referring to? I mean, you've got North Korea as a big threat, obviously, and the president's looking at that and making decisions on whether we're going to have to act preemptively. And I think the Iran nuclear deal is also hot right now because the president clearly believes that Iran has not held up their end of the bargain. And I think based on various leaks and other statements, we know that Secretary Mattis at the Defense Department, Secretary Tillerson, who obviously is already having a back and forth with the president, and there seems to be a rift there. Tillerson also thinks we should keep the Iran deal. So
should we keep Tillerson, though, Ed? I mean, that's the whole thing. Rex, as Lovie Smith might say, Rex is our Secretary of State. Here's the thing. It's with Trump, there's so much bombast. I mean, he's like the boy who cried Bruce Wolf, pardon the expression, because you never believe the things. He always comes out and uses rhetoric like that, so you don't know what to believe when he does the saber rattling. The Iran thing is so complicated because, I mean, you got McMaster, who's this way and that way on it, and everybody thinks of Kim Jong-un as this madman. And, I mean, that's the South Park, explanation of him. But really, I mean, he's got to be looking in a rational way. If we beg out of the Iran deal, look what we did to Gaddafi, too. So they're not going to trust us if we come to the table. And I know what people are saying. What are you talking about? I mean, they're the commie people that we hate, and I get that, too.
Well, but on the Iran deal, if the president says, look, I'm not going to certify this anymore, as you know, there's sort of an escape clause for him, which is it technically does not end the deal. What it does is it kicks it to Congress, and it says, look, as commander-in-chief, I don't think Iran's holding up their end of the bargain, which, frankly, even if you're not a fan of the president, you'd have to admit sounds true. Iran doesn't seem to be holding up its end of the bargain, despite what the Obama administration was saying on the way out the door to prop up the deal, which was a big Obama legacy item, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it does is it kicks it to Congress, sort of like the DACA decision. Instead of eliminating it, says, look, you guys pass a law. You guys tell me that they are, complying with this, Iran. And if they're not, Congress, Democrats and Republicans, should come together on economic sanctions to go after Iran to make sure they don't have nuclear weapons against us. So I actually think that's a reasonable position.
Here's the thing. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I heard, maybe I didn't hear it correctly, I thought I heard Judge Napolitano, who's supposed to be the conservative on the Fox panel last night, say that they have abided by the deal. And on the other hand, I mean, just read like Andrew McCarthy in National Review yesterday. He talks about how the agency charged with doing the inspections had to admit last week that that they're not complying. And they're not complying with a deal that was bad to begin with because it allows them to create a nuclear weapon in a couple of years.
Right. Well, like you say, I think based on the conflicting accounts, we don't know whether Iran is complying. So maybe it's a good idea to actually do a check on this because, as you say, this is not just a, hey, Obama passed a law about like driving 35 miles an hour or not. Let's see whether it's working. This is a deal about whether or not Iran has nuclear weapons to use against us and our allies. So, as you suggest, it seems to me it's a pretty darn big deal to get this right. And so maybe kicking it to Congress and getting them to look at it on a bipartisan basis, which obviously also might be a stretch, getting them to do anything together these days. But look, there was actually progress yesterday we could talk about, which is, the House approved a budget, a Senate committee approved a budget on a whole nother thing. Why is that important? Well, it actually opens the door to the president having the money, the flexibility to push through his tax cuts. He's not there yet.
He may even get a couple of Democrats to vote for a tax plan because, Rand Paul and those guys, are the recalcitrants.
Guaranteed votes.
Yeah, but, look, my point is that you look at the Iran deal, North Korea, all this national security challenges, and then on the domestic front, you look at health care and immigration and a lot of stalled items. If this president, and it's a big if right now, but if this president in the next few weeks, we're going to have a jobs number, as you know, in a few moments, that's going to give us an idea of the health of the economy. There's some nervousness. I was talking to people at the White House last night. They feel like the economy, the growth numbers, as you know, the jobs numbers have been strong recently, but this jobs number and the upcoming economic growth number in the weeks ahead will take into account the hurricanes.
Right.
I think there'll be some stalling there. And so my point is, if you can get a tax cut deal, that's going to be a big shot in the arm to this economy, and it's going to kind of bail the president out after a very uneven year in terms of health care and the other stalled items.
And Ed Henry, where's the legislative debate right now about whether bump stocks should be deemed illegal?
And did you know what a bump stock was 3 days ago?
No, I didn't. And
Neither did I.
Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, who says he's an avid sportsman, and Hunter, says he didn't know what it was a few days ago. So I take it from him. I think it was significant yesterday that not only Paul Ryan, who sets the House calendar anyway, and the NRA, which is obviously all powerful on this issue, said, look, we want to see some kind of regulation on bump stocks. What I think they're really doing is trying to wall it off and say we don't want bigger gun control. We want an item like this, which both parties should come together and say, well, why is somebody allowed to rattle off hundreds of shots at a time? That's obviously not about hunting.
Right.
That's about going out and killing large numbers of people. And I don't care where you stand on the issue. When you look at what happened in Las Vegas, if there's any kind of measure that can be taken to try to prevent something like that or at least lessen the damage, it seems to me it's something that they've got to try to do. Big picture, though, what you should watch is Nancy Pelosi, if you have this clip, if you can find it, she said in front of the cameras yesterday, she hopes this is a slippery slope.
I've never seen somebody hope for a slippery slope.
She said, I want this to lead to broader gun control. That's exactly what conservatives are nervous about. And then Bret Stephens in the New York Times writes an op-ed saying, why do we even need the Second Amendment? I mean, look, folks, this is a terrible tragedy in Vegas. As I'm saying, there should be sensible people coming together to find ways to make sure innocent people are not slaughtered.
Ed, did you see Charlie? Did you see Charlie Cook's response to Ed Henry?
No.
I mean, not to Ed Henry, to Bret Stephens. I mean, basically said, okay, so 11 million people we can't remove from the country. We can't do that. But we can go in and raid 123 million homes and take away their guns.
I mean, you're just going to do away with the Second Amendment. I mean, beyond with the practicality of it, as you say, it's a constitutional right. And this is what gets conservatives backs up. It gets gun owners backs up. And that's why I think rather than turning this into let's take everyone's guns away, let's just find smart ways to make it harder for people who shouldn't be stockpiling weapons and targeting hundreds of people. I mean, what's wrong? I mean, right there in Chicago, this madman was looking at maybe doing the same thing at Lollapalooza.
Yeah, he did. He rented. He
could have been your city.
I know he did, but he never showed up. I mean, he made a reservation for 2 rooms, and thank God he didn't show up.
We looked at Boston. I mean, this is scary, scary stuff. And I'm not saying that means that then you take everyone's guns away. That's what some people want to do, and I think that's outrageous. This is a constitutional right. But there has to be some middle ground here.
Ed Henry, I've been watching Fox News Channel. You guys have done a great job and a respectful job covering the massacre that it was in Las Vegas on Sunday night. Do you have any idea what was on the note that was left in the shooter's hotel room?
Some of our reporting suggests that there's a series of numbers. And so some people, the FBI as well as the local police are looking at that. Is that some signal to someone else? Is it just, obviously this was a madman, so maybe he's just scribbling something that doesn't make sense. Or was it an escape route? I think I heard you maybe saying that in the lead-in. Was it something about that, about getting away or trying to get away? Because remember, he also had video cameras set up outside the room that were supposed to tip him off when the police were coming to get him. So it looks like he was trying to at least survive this and get away. So far, to answer that, they have not figured out what the note means. There's numbers and other things on it that don't make sense. So there's a lot that doesn't make sense because they haven't been able to find. The police chief has suggested that the shooter had some help, and you say the president also hinted that he knew more as well. But there's some piece of this that clearly is holding them back from going public with, some other shoe that's going to drop here, it seems like.
All right. Thanks so much, Ed Henry, for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
And Ed Henry, of course, Chief National Correspondent for Fox News Channel and author of the book 42 Faith, the rest of the Jackie Robinson story. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.